They want to heavily restrict trade and impose regulations on our manufactured goods. Then import illegal opium. They're destroying our opium stocks. I declare war!
Welcome back, y'all, to Simplified History. Let's talk about the Opium Wars. In the 1830s, Britain ended its trade monopoly and new merchants pushed for free trade with China. But between 1839 and 1860, Western countries were rapidly industrializing, while China's Qing dynasty remained more traditional. However, China limited foreign trade through the crackdown system, which Western nations saw as restrictive and outdated. At the same time, Western countries had much more stronger military technology, such as steam-powered gunboats, and creating a major power gap, and we all know what happens when there's a power gap. But this period was also a time of imperial expansion, with nations like Britain and France competing for influence in Asia. Meanwhile, China was weakening from within due to corruption, population growth, and major rebellions like the Taiping Rebellion.
The First Opium War, fought between 1839 and 1842, was a major conflict between Britain and China that revealed growing power imbalance between the 18th and 19th centuries. Simply, the war was about trade, but the British people had high demand for Chinese goods like tea, silk, and porcelain, and China didn't want British products. Therefore, no trade. To fix this trade imbalance, British merchants began illegally selling opium, a highly addictive drug, into China. Millions of Chinese citizens became addicted.
Top of the morning, bruv. Care for some Big O?
This addiction had a significant social impact on China. Opium addiction spread widely among the population, disrupting communities and the economy. Families were affected as laborers became less productive, and public trust in the Qing government eroded because it struggled to control both foreign influence and internal social problems, contributing to the growing unrest, setting the stage for future rebellions. But the Qing government attempted to stop the crisis. In 1839, Chinese official Lin Zexu confiscated and destroyed large amounts of opium in Canton and Britain. Britain responded with military force by going to Canton and blowing stuff up using its advanced navy and weaponry to defeat China's outdated forces. The war ended with the Treaty of Nanjing in 1842, which heavily favored Britain. China was forced to pay large fines, open several ports to British trade, and give up control of Hong Kong.
Get on with it.
This marked the beginning of what is often called China's century of humiliation, as Western powers increasingly exploited its weakness. But looking beyond the immediate trade issues, the First Opium War exposed how industrialization changed global power. Britain's advanced technology, including the steam-powered gunboats and modern artillery, gave it a huge advantage over China's traditional forces. And the war demonstrated that countries with industrialized economies and modern militaries could dominate nations that had not yet been modernized, changing the world stage.
The Second Opium War, fought from 1856 to 1860, was a continuation of the conflict between China and Western powers, but this time, Britain was joined by France. When the First Opium War had already forced China to open trade, Western nations wanted even more access, influence, and legal privileges. The immediate cause of the war was the Arrow Incident, when Chinese officials boarded a British-registered ship and arrested its crew. Britain used this as an excuse to restart the conflict, and France joined after the killing of a missionary. However, the deeper cause was Western frustration with the limits of earlier treaties and the desire to expand trade, including legalizing the opium trade. Militarily, the war once again showed the gap between industrialized Western powers and the Qing Dynasty. British and French forces captured major cities like Canton and eventually advanced to Beijing. In 1860, they looted and burned the Emperor's Summer Palace, symbolizing China's defeat. The war ended with the treaties of Tianjin and the Convention of Beijing. These agreements forced China to open more ports, allowing foreign diplomats in Beijing legalize opium and give up even more territory.
你许上?
America, of course. I wasn't signing too. It was my buddy Russia.
Duh.
Beyond trade and diplomacy, the Second Opium War revealed the growing influence of Western powers in shaping international law and relations with Asia. The treaties imposed on China granted the foreign powers extraterritorial rights, meaning their citizens were not subject to Chinese law. This system favored Western nations and undermined China's sovereignty, creating a legal framework that allowed foreign nations to operate freely inside Chinese territory. The war also had major social and economic effects on China. The looting of the Summer Palace and other cities, combined with the disruption of trade, caused widespread suffering among many ordinary citizens. Opium addiction continued to spread, and the government faced criticism for its inability to defend the nation. These internal pressures weakened the Qing dynasty further, fueling social unrest, contributing to future uprisings, and deepening China's century of humiliation, strengthening Western control over trade and setting the stage for continued foreign influence throughout the 19th century.
In conclusion, the First and Second Opium Wars reshaped China and the world. They revealed the growing power of industrialized Western nations and the vulnerability of China's traditional system. These wars forced China to open trade, give up territory, and accept foreign influence. The conflicts showed how technology, military strength, and imperial ambition could dominate nations, leaving lasting impacts on China's society, economy, and place in global history.